Good evening, everybody, and welcome. So, tonight I will be wrapping up my Universal Law series. I'm going to be going over a few honorable mentions as I paused my 30 seconds ago self. Man, I have to be on top of that. So, I'm going to be going over a list of a few honorable mentions, including my own personal favorite of the Universal Laws. I just wanted to say thank you for joining me. Everybody in the chat. JayDreamerZ is in the chat. Jake A, of course, is in the chat. And man, there was a lot of good live streams tonight. So it's pretty awesome. I'm pretty stoked about that. But let's get right into things tonight, because I'm not going to be talking for too long, because I'm kind of tired and my son is asleep and there's a good chance he might wake up. So without any further ado, actually, let's go over the universal laws that we have gone over so far. Well, we started off with basically the very first one was the law of one. And that basically says that everything is connected. And then we went into the rest of the universal laws, the law of mind. And the law of mind says that we live in a dream world, that everything. Then we went into the law of correspondence, which says, simply put, as above, so below, as within, so without. And then there's the law of vibration that states that everything is constantly moving, that there is no such thing as absolute zero or a stasis or dead point. Then we went into the law of polarity, which talks about how contradictions and paradoxes are really reconciled whenever we understand that there is no division, that everything exists according to our perspective along a set of poles, giving us polarity and the appearance of good and evil, right and wrong, black and white, and whatever else you can think of. And then we went into the laws of cause and effect, which talks about for every action, there is a reaction, or for every cause, there is an effect that came from a cause, and from every cause, there was an effect to cause it. Then we talked about the law of gender, not so much sexual, physical, genitalia, gender, but we're talking about gender as in principles. The principle of giving and receiving. The principle of putting out and taking in. Of inhale and exhale. Those types of genders. And then I think the last one was the law of attraction, aka karma. Of course, most importantly, the counter to karma, or the what seems to be the means of escaping karma, which in reality there is no escaping karma, but there is a way to rise above so that whenever karma comes back, you can receive the full positive benefits of it, or you can rise above as it passes through you, and impact won't be very harsh, or it won't really have an impact. It'll just pass right through. And we're going to get into some things that gets into as well. I'm going to stop and say hello to people in the chat room real quick. Flat Earth Serenity, hello. Of course, Jay Analyze. I saw Jay in some of the other chats today. Mitt Rom says, just in time. I've missed a week's worth of vids. Can't wait to catch up. Right on. And Gina says she just shared this on Facebook. So awesome. Thanks for doing that. All right, so let's jump into the honorable mentions. So the first three are interrelated. And the first one is a mouthful. It's called the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. Break that down. Okay, I know it's a lot. But perpetual means ongoing, everlasting, continual. So it's the law of continual transmutation. So transmutation means basically means to change from one thing to another, or constant change. So it's the law of constantly changing energy. And the energy, like we talked about in previous laws, is simply vibration, which is everywhere and comprises everything. So this law states that energy is constantly morphing, it's constantly mutating, it's constantly changing. Um, Basically, when it comes to energy, we have various wavelengths. And I talk about this a lot in a lot of my videos. We have very low base wavelengths, which slower or lower mentality. Often the ego comes into play when we're talking about people. Selfishness comes into play. And as we raise these vibrations, or as we raise our energy levels, right, then we experience suit with that. Now, here's the deal. Energy is constantly transmuting. It's constantly changing. That's why it's a perpetual morphing. It's a perpetual changing. Energy never, ever, ever stays stagnant. It never just is at one frequency and it just stays that frequency. I mean, you and I can attest to this in our daily lives, especially those of us who are trying to become better people. You know, we might be right here in the middle, and then we have a high vibe, something good happens, you know, or we're just in that zone where we're like vibrating at a really high level, and then something might knock us down a little bit, and we're fluctuating. We're constantly fluctuating. Energy is constantly fluctuating, transmuting, or changing. Um, Now, typically it's said that higher vibrations are constantly replacing lower vibrations. Or another way you could say that is that lower vibrations are constantly moving upward, which gets us into our next two honorable mentions. The next one is called the law of soul evolution. Now, the law of soul evolution, now basically our soul is an energy signature, okay? And this is something we have to understand underneath the law of separation, or not really the law of separation, but the illusion of separation, right? So under the illusion of separation, we have and referred to as individual soul energies, right? Soul signatures that you identify as you, I identify as me, but this is only if we acknowledge and sort of play with this illusion of division or separation, right? It doesn't always have to be a negative connotation or a bad thing to be divided or separate, as long as we keep in mind that it's just an illusion, it's just a game. It's a tool that we use in order to understand ourselves and to know ourselves even better. But the law of soul evolution basically says that all souls are constantly experiencing. And because they're constantly experiencing, they're constantly moving in an upward manner. They're constantly evolving to the positive spectrum. Now, I know this might be really difficult for many of us to come to terms with, especially because it's natural for our first instinct and our first thought to be people that we just don't see as anyone that's moving along or anybody that's growing. You know what I mean? But to simply experience brings about knowledge and learning, which brings about change. And that change might be extremely gradual, extremely slow, but believe me, it is going upward. And that's really a positive message. What that means for everyone is that there's hope for us all. It means that in the end, we all win. It means that there are no, ultimately, if we step outside of time, which can sort of hinder our perspective for the moment, if we can step outside of time, then we could watch all souls, all energy signatures better themselves. You know what I mean? Which is it's a pretty awesome thought, I think. Pardon me. So the next one of our honorable mentions, and the last of the three that are sort of tied together, is the law of testing, also sometimes called the law of relativity, but I didn't want relativity to get mixed up with like the theory of relativity, so I call it the law of testing. Now, this one is very fun to implement in my daily life, and I'll tell you why. The law of testing is a tool, and it's a tool for the things around us, which are ultimately connected to us, to also use in order to test us to see if we will remain loyal to these newfound vibrations. Example, let's say that somebody has just lived a hard knock life and life has been real tough. And then all of a sudden one day they came across some information and they learned, wow, I have the ability upset in a particular situation. I have the ability to choose other options. So let's say that you're driving on the freeway, right? And somebody cuts you off and you're just an angry driver. You like you have horrible road rage, right? Somebody cuts you off. In that moment, if you have learned that you have another option at that point in time, if you have learned at some point in time in the future, I'm going to be more considerate of others. I'm going to be more loving of others. I'm going to put myself in others' shoes. When that person cuts you off, the law of testing is basically jumping in to allow you to test yourself, to see if you will hold strong to these newfound ways of thought, these new vibrations, to see if you can jump up to that next level and stay there and remain there, to be constant, progress to the next things, right? So what this means is this can be a tough one, but it can also be very exciting. It means that during the times of our toughest tribulations, that we would do well to step outside of ourselves and recognize the seemingly difficult situation, the fire that we're about to walk through, as something that is a tool that will help to refine us once we reach the other side. So, some people call them blessings in disguise. Ultimately, there is nothing bad that can happen to us. There are only trials, there are only tests that guide us and aid us for people. And if we were never tested, we would never have the ability to continually grow and continually grow, right? We would just take everything for granted and we wouldn't know any better, basically. So, in a nutshell, the law of testing states that whenever you're going through something bad in life, whenever you're having a tough day, whenever you get some bad news or something bad happens to you, try to remember, step outside of yourself momentarily and tell yourself, this is a test. It's an opportunity for me to grow, and I am honored by the situation. And I feel that, you know, that's probably one of the toughest things to do. But if you can do that, I promise it'll bring a smile to your face, and it'll be much easier for you to get over those hurdles and those obstacles in the future. So let me jump into the chat before going to our next one, which is my personal favorite of the universal laws. By the way, this video is brought to you by, I don't know if you can see it. Nah, I'll spill it. But I'm drinking milk. But it's not cow's milk. It's not animal milk. I actually stopped drinking cow's milk soon after I decided to become vegetarian and to eat vegetables instead. This is almond milk. And oh my God, this is really good. Like, this is 10 times better than cow's milk, right? And at first, when I first started drinking almond milk, It has like a slight aftertaste, you know, kind of an almond aftertaste. I wasn't sure about it, but I drank it for like a couple of days, and now it's delicious. And it's you can use it with anything that, you know, you need milk as an ingredient. And the other thing is now, like, I think I tried drinking some milk, you know, after drinking almond milk for a few weeks. And when I put the milk, the cow's milk, to my nose, it was like it had a what's that word? Pungent. It had a pungent odor to it. Like, ew, this is not good. Now, I've loved milk, cow's milk, my entire life. Loved it. Drank it all the time. I mean, I was ready to take the 1 gallon milk challenge, but highly recommend almond milk. They have different varieties. They have a sweet one that's like a vanilla flavored, which is excellent in coffee and other things. I put this one in my cereal. It's really good. I just wanted to I just wanted to put that out there as a slight commercial, I guess. All right, so let me jump in the chat. Oh, Adam's here. What's up, Adam? Jay Analyze says, now I'm going to challenge myself. Excellent. Flatter Serenity says, gratitude is key. Shelby says it has tons of estrogen in it. Well, good, because then that'll balance out all of my testosterone that I have going on. Tommy Lee says, yes, Jay is a vegetarian. Good to hear. Oh, Kyle Rail. I haven't seen you around here. Welcome, Kyle. Oh, yeah, that's right. Soy milk does have like estrogen type stuff. It does produce estrogen. I don't drink soy stuff. I don't eat soy stuff because I don't want man boobs, basically. Oh, right on. That's tight. Okay, cool. So, Unlimited Light, what's up? So, I'm going to move on to the next one, guys. Drum roll, please. My number one favorite of all time. The number one favorite. Okay, actually, that's not true. The Law of One is my favorite. But, I mean, the Law of One is just the ultimate truth as far as my understanding of truth at this moment in time. But aside from the law of one, the next universal law is called the law of Bodhisattva. The law of Bodhisattva, one who has transcended the need of earthly incarnations, but who has chosen to return to the earth to support others in achieving enlightenment. A bodhisattva knows that he will never really be free until all souls are free. And man, that just saying that makes me feel good, because sometimes I get down about being here in this realm, in this heavy, thick density that I'm in right now. But when I remind myself that I'm not here for myself, and this doesn't apply to everybody, okay? So this applies to particular individuals that have a particular focus, and that focus is to help everybody else out. Those of us who in our souls have already realized that we are content with life, that we are content with our energy and the energies around us, we are here to be lights to others, to guide other people, to inspire other people so that they can look within themselves and travel that path that they need to travel in order to reach wherever they're going. And we smile at their journey. We have a loving warmth for everybody, even our enemies, because ultimately we really don't even have any enemies. Now, some of us, you know, we take a while to sort of shake off the veil of illusion and forgetfulness and separation as we've jumped into these bodies down here. But once we started to shake it off, we shake it off rather quickly. And then we start to realize who we are, or our purpose, why we are, and what we're doing here. So the law of Bodhisattva is for those of us who are here until the last man is gone, or the last woman is gone, until every soul is is through this process. You know what I mean? At least for, I'm not sure if it's like eternally, but I have a feeling that it's like there are certain cycles, and whatever this cycle is, it's not just my lifetime cycle, like JayDreamerZ in this body, this cycle. I mean like a particular given amount of time that we will be here for, that we are already okay with. You know what I mean? Um, so whenever we get down or depressed or the world is getting to us, those are the physical aspects of the brain um, fighting against our understanding and our acceptance of our mission here and who we are, and not just who we are, but who the others are around us, who are also us, who we are connected to, because ultimately we understand that we're all connected, we're all one. And so I wouldn't want to leave with pieces of me with unfinished business. You know what I mean? I want to see all of me ascend. I want to see all of me raise my entire vibration. I want to see all of me become successful in this game, you know? And so it's really an act of love and joy. It's really a joy to be here. And that's another tough thing for many people to say. You know, do you feel it's a joy to be in this realm at this time where we are? Do you feel it's a joy to be who you are? Even though you're surrounded by the muck and the mud and the lies and the deceit and the dirt and the conspiracy and the is the answer. Deep down, absolutely, I love it. I'm happy to participate. I am happy to watch others go through this because I understand that they're all evolving spiritually in that upward fashion. And it makes me smile in them. And so I'm happy to be here. So that is absolutely my favorite of the universal laws, except for the law of one. Let's see, how many more do we have? Oh, we've got a couple we got about 2 or 3 pretty cool ones. I'm gonna jump in the chat again real quick. Oh wow, Flat Earth Serenity says she's going to heal people with medicinal herbs from her garden. That's awesome. Rachel P is in the chat. Professor Doom, as always, good to see you. He says, damn, pulling a late one again. Yes. And you know what? The reason that I do my videos at night, aside from the, you know, that I work all day, is there's something about the nighttime. There's something about the dark and the peacefulness and the calm that I just connect with that. You know what I mean? I thrive at nighttime, and I love it. It's just a part of me. Adam's Truth Journey says, Shelby just did some research. Google soy estrogen myths. It actually contains 0 estrogen. Well, good. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next of the universal laws, the honorable mentions. And let's see, the next one is, the law of free will. Now, a lot of people have preconceived ideas and connotations as to what exactly is free will. And this is something that a lot of us, it seems to me, have for quite some time. You know, do we have free will? Can we do anything and everything that we really want to? Or are our actions predetermined and this has all already been set into motion? In which case, is there any meaning to anything? I mean, if there is no free will, then I can do anything and blame it on predestination. I can say, hey, guess what? It's not my fault. It was written into the script that way. So, what is the law of free will? It is predestined circumstances, right? But the free will to determine the severity of their effect. I'm going to repeat that. So free will is predestined circumstances, right? So the things happening around us, have already been set into motion. But you have no control over that. We have no control over the things that are to happen to us. But what do we have control over? We have control over our energy. We have control over our response. We have control over how these circumstances weigh on us, or how we use our circumstances to free ourselves. I hope that makes sense. Now, I understand that that can be a difficult concept to explore, and by all means, continue to explore it. But that's where I am on the concept of free will, and that is the law of free will. So I'm going to move on, even though I know that that's a huge one and everyone's probably going to want to talk about it. But I'm going to move on because I'm actually more interested in the next one. The next of the honorable mentions of the Universal Law series is the fellowship law of energy. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's also a mouthful. So let me break that down. The fellowship law. Now, fellowship means to come together with like-minded beings, or your fellows, your friends, we'll say. You know, they say great minds think alike. That's because tracks like, as we've already talked about, and the more like, the more similar energies that you get together, the more amplified their effects become, especially as they focus. So it is the fellowship law of amplification of energy. So all that really means is that when like minds get together, the energy that they vibrate at is amplified. It becomes stronger. It becomes greater and more far-reaching. Now, this is a very practical law to put into effect into our personal lives, but even better into our social lives, into our group lives. Now, this law can be used in a couple of different ways, okay? We've seen people use this law for selfish reasons. Come here, Booba. We've seen people use this law for selfish reasons. You tired? Oh. One moment. You want to lay down? No. You want to lay down? Just lay down. So we have seen people use getting together with like-minded individuals in order to bring chaos, or what seems to be chaos. And we have also seen them. You want to say hi to everybody? Say hi, world. Hi, world. We've also seen people get together, as in the times of Atlantis, in order to focus their energy on things to bring about a positive outcome, or to energetically charge things for a positive outcome. Now, I'm very much in favor of the positive outcome, or instead of positive, I'll call it selfless outcome, the giving outcome. But that's the law of amplification of energy, or the fellowship law of amplification of energy. The next one is the law of resistance and conscious detachment. Now, the law of resistance and conscious detachment. To resist something means to oppose it, right? Now, if we remember that we're living under a veil, the illusion of separation, then we come to terms with, if we oppose something, ultimately we are only opposing ourselves. That's all. If we are divided, we are only going up against ourselves. So the law states, it is the law of resistance and conscious detachment. We can choose when something comes our way, we can resist it, right? If we resist it, then there's energy at work there. We actually oftentimes give energy to the thing that we resist. We actually help to create that cause. And I can speak from personal experience, just given, you know, all the videos I've done on, I mean, that's a perfect example in my life. Or instead of resisting yourself, ourselves, what we can do is we can consciously detach from it when it comes our way. Now, what do I mean by that? I'll give you a great example. In prison, they have a place called the hole, or solitary confinement. And if an inmate goes into the hole, he's in his own cell by himself with pretty much nothing. And there's metal doors and there's cement everywhere. Now, or in solitary confinement, let's say that I go into solitary confinement and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I hear some crazy psychotic inmates next to me pounding on their cell door, just boom, boom, because they're angry and they're going nuts and they're pounding, boom, boom, boom. Now, that's going to disturb my peace momentarily, and especially if other inmates join in. Boom, 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 everybody's pounding on their doors, right? And it's echoing and it's loud. That. And I can pound on my door and tell them to shut up, and I can participate in the noise that's going on all around me, right? Or I can address those people and I can deal with their reactions to it. Or what I can do is I can sit there and detach from what's going on, take myself to another place, meditate, if you will, and allow myself to realize that the moment that that door banging begins to upset me, I now put a timer on it and I say, this is the beginning. Now, everything that has a beginning has a middle and it has an end ultimately. So I can actually leave time and I can look forward to the end of this door banging, and I can rejoice while it's happening in the silence that is to come. So I can detach from the frustrations and from the stress and anxiety and the anger and whatever else is there tempting me all around me. I can detach myself from it, allow it to pass right through me. And I'm not saying ignore it, but accept it for what it is and accept it for the limitations that it has. I literally rise above it. This is right through me. And because I'm vibrating at an entirely different level than my situation around me, then I'm like a ghost in that moment. I'm like a spirit in that moment. And those things are a more dense energy, and they pass right through me, or I pass right through them. It's not that they don't exist. It's not that they don't have some sort of an effect, but I've taken myself to a parallel realm or being where those things have no effect on me. I have consciously detached from them. They still are happening, but once they're done happening, I can come back down and experience this realm and these situations once again the way that I was before these unfavorable situations came my way. I hope that was a good analogy to use. True. It's a true story. What else? There's two more left. I'm going to jump in the chat real quick. Unlimited Light says, doing that takes you out of the moment. Yes, it does. And it actually takes you into another moment, because there's so many moments that are coexisting all at one time. And we get to choose which moment we experience or which moment we give energy to. And the moment of time, the moment that we experience, that we give energy to, becomes our own personal reality, which is very interesting. Jazz is in the chat, and Shim Jones is in the chat as well. What's up, Shim and Jazz? Jazz, you're up far too late. Okay, so we're going to wrap things up with the last two of the honorable mentions of the Universal Law series. The next one is the law of... Now, this one's very simple. The law of reflection simply says that the world is your mirror so expel fear. The world is your mirror, so expel fear, right? Everything you look at around you shows you something about yourself. Now, this one's difficult to utilize if we're still living in a very polarized mindset. You know what I mean? If that veil of separation and division is still very strong with us, then it's hard for us to look around and see ourselves in everything that we see, because everything is our mirror. Everything gives us an opportunity to grow and to see ourselves everywhere. And it's really very simple. So, for example, if you find yourself becoming upset or angry with another person, you're really becoming upset and angry with yourself. That other person is actually giving you, through the law of testing, the opportunity to be honored and honor yourself in order to love yourself, in order to see yourself in that person, in order to empathize or sympathize or love that person as you should be loving yourself. Does that make sense? So, that is the law of reflection. The world is your mirror, not just other people, the world. You can look at a tree outside and you can learn something about yourself. You can watch TV and learn something about yourself. You can eat cereal in the morning and learn something about yourself. You can see all the animals in the world and learn something about yourself. You can see yourself. And the more we see ourselves in the things around us, the more we realize that we are not separated from those things. And the easier it becomes to love and to accept those things. Which brings us to our final honorable mention in the Universal Law series. Now, we started off with the law of one as being the most important. So I'm going to end with what I feel is equally important. This is the law of unconditional love. Now, don't let the word love throw you off track as a trigger word. I don't mean Hallmark love. I don't mean lust. I don't mean like. I don't mean care. I don't mean interest. I don't mean infatuation. It's the law of unconditional love. No condition. We love regardless. And to love is an action. Okay? Love is not just a feeling that we get. I'm not talking about emotional love. I'm talking about a knowing. The knowing and the action of. We give unconditional love, regardless of what a person looks like or or animals, regardless of race, regardless of sex, regardless of Illuminati, regardless of Satan or God or Jesus or flat earth or globe earth or you know, inside job or not inside job, regardless of political stance, regardless of vegan, vegetarian, meat eater, carnivore, black, white, Mexican, Haitian, Indian, Jamaican. That's a Will Smith song. Anyways, regardless of anything, we love unconditionally. Now that ultimately will result in what we refer to as harmony. Love as total, and when we can totally accept the world around us, we can then totally and have totally accepted ourselves. When we totally accept ourselves unconditionally, we don't weigh ourselves down with guilt. We don't weigh ourselves down with regret and hypotheticals in our minds about who we should be and who we should have been and what we should have done and mistakes that we've made. And you can accept yourself right now for who you are, for what you are, and you can see the world as your mirror, then you can love yourself without condition in your actions to constantly better yourself, knowing that you're constantly progressing, that you're constantly evolving, that you're constantly changing, knowing that every time that you learn something, every time you advance, that you will be tested, because you will test yourself. You is your mirror. It's you. You will test yourself when the time is right. And eventually, time is on your side. You will come out on top. You'll make it through this. There are some of us who have chosen to stay here until the end because we recognize the oneness of all things. We recognize ourselves and everything. So we've decided to stay until the job is done. So yeah, the law of unconditional love, total acceptance. You know what I mean? Like a child. Just like a child. You know, I was grocery shopping today and my son was looking at everybody because, you know, sometimes he's a cutie pie. So, you know, the girls will say, bye. And then he'll go, bye-bye, bye-bye. And then he'll start looking at everybody we walk past. He doesn't care who they are, if they're black, if they're fat, if they're skinny, if they're a man or a woman. He'll just say, bye, bye, because he's so excited to talk to other people. He's so excited to make a connection. That is the type of unconditional love that if we practice that with everybody, if we can look past people's limitations or their seeming limitations, look past people's faults, look past the things that we don't enjoy about other people, and we can accept them and say, that's a part of me. Now, I might not understand that part of me at this point in time on this path, but I see it, I respect it, and I understand that it is a part of me, and so I will love it. So, say hi, Bubba. I think that's a great way to end the Universal Law series. I do encourage everybody to go over it every once in a while, just to refresh ourselves. I also want to encourage you to check out. I think it's under my spiritual line of videos, the Wizard's Rules. The Wizard's Rules are also very good to go over every now and then. But if we can keep in mind the universal laws, if we can understand that the people that we call our enemy, the Illuminati, the illuminated ones, if we can understand that they're smart enough to understand how these laws work, that they know the rules of the game, and that they use those rules to their advantage, why can't we? You know what I mean? So, anyways, it's time for me to go. Because I got to put my little guy to bed, because we all need sleep. Because if we didn't sleep, we wouldn't wake up. So with that, good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Thanks for watching, everybody. Say bye-bye. Bye-bye.